Hey Merfolk fans, I'm Joe. Thanks very much for joining me today. If you'd like to support my channel, please check out the link above to my Patreon page. So it's another Friday and there's another Merfolk 5.0 on the mothership. Wizards just updated their website and here we see Zerthon 2 with the competitive league 5.0, once again running 4 Benthic Biomancer and 4 Deprive in the main deck. Congratulations Zerthon 2. This is the 5th consecutive Merfolk 5.0 since Benthic Biomancer was released on Magic Online. All lists have had the counterspells and bends. One of the results was M. Hayashi, who, again, did have those cards, but was quite a different build. But 4 out of the 5 are extremely similar to today's list. So let's see, real quick. Let's talk about Deprive for a minute. I feel like most pilots are converging on Deprive as the correct choice for our main deck counterspell. Wizard's Retort, like Mana Leak, can be more situational than we'd like, and really more situational than we need. I had a match against Storm, where in game 1, I cast a Wizard's Retort. I ended up losing that game, and then in game 2, I played a Ben and passed the turn with 2 mana up. So on the opponent's turn, they lightning bolted Ben, and I could have countered that, but that's a pretty terrible thing to spend a counterspell on. So I let it resolve, and then the opponent stormed off, and when it came time for them to cast Gifts Ungiven, my counterspell was dead. So the fact that the opponent was able to turn off my counterspell, at their whim, since they know that I play Wizard's Retort, really bothered me. It felt like something that, we shouldn't open ourselves up to. It's really just totally unnecessary. Deprive does have a drawback. Picking up a land is not always wonderful for us. If there are games where we really have to slam Master of Waves on turn 4, we'll have to think super carefully about whether we want to hold up mana for Deprive on turn 3, or just wait till later in the game. But many times we have Ether Vial out, and bouncing a land is not really a big deal at all. So I'm pretty sure that Deprive is the best choice right now. Please leave your thoughts down below. How has your testing been going? Are you on Deprive, Wizard's Retort? Are you working on Mana Leak? Rothgar is still on Mana Leak. He's been having good success with it, but it's way too situational for my tastes. So, apart from the creatures, the instance, the mana base is actually the same as the list earlier in this week. I'm pretty sure Zerthon just picked up the most recently successful list. I'm still convinced that this is way too greedy. It's very interesting that both of these pilots were able to do so well with it. 4 Mutavaults is too much for me to begin with, but then adding a Cavern of Soul with more gray mana is just going to make it so that you can't cast Deprive when you need to. So it's possible that 3 Mutavaults could be correct, but the Cavern of Soul is too much in my view, and definitely 4 Mutavaults. I'm currently on 2. I do get flooded sometimes, but that's a drawback of playing a lot of blue intensive spells. You have to play a lot of blue sources. How many Mutavaults have you guys been running? How are they feeling? Let's go down to the sideboard for a minute. Echoing Truth, pretty basic, pretty standard. Mistcaller was from the list earlier in this week, I believe. Obviously good against the Phoenix decks, good against Hollow One, good against Living End decks. I've seen a bunch of different types of Living End recently. There's the blue-red version with As Foretold and Ancestral Recall, or Ancestral Vision, I guess. There's the old Jund version. There's a new black-red version with Dragon Lord Ojutai. No, Dragon Lord Kolaghan. So anyhow, Mistcaller good in those matchups. You can see this this pilot trimmed to 3 Relic of Progenitus because you get some cross coverage against graveyard strategies. So that makes sense to me, but I'm still on 4 relics. I love that it cycles. I love that it's, excellent against all the black-green decks, like Rock and Jund and Abzan, all that stuff. But Mistcaller, not great in those matchups. Very sort of niche applications for Mistcaller. Oh, Dredge is one I forgot to mention that Mistcaller is good against. But again, Relic is really good against those decks too. So I tend to prefer Relic. What do you guys think about Mistcaller right now? Spellskite has been doing actually a lot of work for me. I got it down against Jund, and it protected my Master of Waves from an Assassin's Trophy. I got it down against Grixis Death Shadow, I think just today. I had an empty board, was feeling pretty down, but then once I started drawing into some creatures, Spellskite did a really nice job. The opponent attacked with a Gurmag Angler when I was at like 5 life. I tried to double block to kill it. The opponent went for Temur Battle Rage, and perhaps it was like the only option in their hand. But it was pretty poor because I had mana up to activate Spellskite, I believe, and it just getting that redirected to Spellskite is pretty terrible. It's a powerful spell. It doesn't kill the Spellskite, so why even cast it? So Spellskite redirected the Temur Battle Rage. I was able to trade effectively with the Gurmag Angler, and then I ended up top decking better than the Grixis player, and I got there. It was a really exciting game, and I couldn't have done it without Spellskite. So a little bit interesting. I haven't actually gotten use out of Spellskite for the purposes I brought him in for, basically to redirect burn spells and to redirect modular triggers against affinity decks. But he's in there for when those matchups creep up. I'm currently off of Venser. I feel like we have decent game against Supreme Verdict decks already. And in other fast matchups, Venser's 4 mana is just a little bit too much. And often his effect is kind of too cute and doesn't have as much effect as you'd like it to. For example, I don't bring him in even when I have him in the board against like Jund and Rock because, what does he do really? You bounce a Tarmogoyf, you get a 2/2 human that doesn't have Island Walk, he doesn't get buffed, and then the opponent just plays their Tarmogoyf again. It's not a high impact card in a lot of matchups. So I'm off Venser. I don't like Gutshot. As I mentioned, I'm on the 4 relics. And instead of these Tidebinder Mages, I'm currently running a couple of Ceremonious Rejections. There are some Eldrazi decks creeping back into the format. I've seen in the last week or so both Eldrazi Aggro with Serum Powder, I think is the card, and then just plain old Eldrazi Tron. So if those guys are in the format, having a couple of Ceremonious Rejections in your sideboard is going to be handy. Obviously, it's also really good against any Tron matchup, like the traditional green Tron decks. Also really good against any affinity decks. Now, obviously with counterspells like Ceremonious Rejection, the timing is a little bit tricky, but our counterspells, remember, are a bit of a combo with Echoing Truth and Harbinger, because if an opponent resolves something that we'd like to counter, we can always bounce it, and then when they try to recast it, we can counter it. So I like Ceremonious Rejection. It could possibly be Hurkyl's Recall, but as I mentioned, I've been seeing just about as many Tron and Eldrazi decks as I've been seeing Artifact decks. So nice to have sideboard options that hit more decks. So extremely excited with where Merfolk sits right now. I believe we're getting better and better. The deck is, I think, stronger than it's been in a long time. Hopefully, we'll place in some big events and start creeping up in the metagame. Please leave any thoughts you have down below. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. Please check out my Patreon page if you have a minute. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks very much. Bye.